Welcome to the Beyond Data Management Podcast, powered by HS GovTech. Now here's your host, Cameron Garrison.
Welcome back all across EH Nation. I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving holiday, survived it, not too bad of a food coma, and not too much craziness on Black Friday. Welcome back. Cameron Garrison here, and we have a fun conversation here today. So over the last few episodes, we've had a couple of guests who one of the things that they had happen with them this year was that they had submitted a picture at the NEHA Annual Education Conference. Sorry, I'll move that cup. Sloppy before we got started here. And there's some great pictures. Today's guest is no different. So we'll get to that in the conversation. Welcoming in here to the Beyond Data Management Studios, Zach Barr from Toledo-Lucas, Ohio, the Environmental Health Department there. He's a registered sanitarian there. Zach, welcome. How are you, man? Thanks for taking the time.
Hey, Cameron, how you doing? I'm good. I appreciate you having me on the podcast.
Oh, it's thrilled to do it. It's
always fun to share some environmental health perspective.
It is. It's just you, me, and 30,000 of our closest friends, a lot of which are in EH. So this is the highlight of my days, the days we get to do this, because it beats real work, you know? So you actually are, like, there's a lot of talk. We talked recently to Bob Custard, who's at sort of the tail end of a very long career. He actually retired 14 years ago from the Virginia Department of Health, but he's not really retired. He's still working in other departments.
Retire, rehire kind of thing.
Yeah, he can't get away from it. But him and so many others talk about, like, we need that next generation. We need the younger guys, because some of the older thought leaders are getting to where they're going to need a break. And you're one of them. And so you're actually, I think you were a graduate of Notre Dame, right?
Yeah, Notre Dame College no longer exists, but it is, I call it the Great Value Notre Dame in South Euclid, Ohio. That's where I did all my undergrad work. I got my, basically went for a degree in exercise science, found out I did not enjoy it whatsoever, went for a bio degree, didn't want to lose the organic chemistry classes I took, and just picked up a chemistry minor by some additional, basically, research. And then with that, I followed my girlfriend to Indianapolis, where she was going to grad school to be a genetic counselor, and picked up a job at a QC biopharmaceutical company, just doing like QC micro work. So I did that for basically a year, and then just right place, right time. Girlfriend found a job in Toledo. I had some contacts in Toledo, found this position in environmental health, and I've kind of been doing generalist work the last 3 years, and that's kind of where we're at.
So you said you started in exercise science. What kind of is the what you study there, and what didn't you like about it? Because you said you ended up not liking it.
Yeah, absolutely. Exercise science, at least from my understanding, was kind of like PT-esque, so like kind of like trainer kind of deal. That was like largely what it was geared towards. I was coaching at the time, so I thought that's kind of what I wanted to do indefinitely. And then I took some of the courses and just I don't know, application just wasn't what I thought it was. I kind of wanted, I joke, I didn't realize I was so passionate about water quality. My last 2 jobs have effectively been water quality positions. But yeah, that's just kind of how things ended up shaking out.
It's funny. It's your story is the common one. Like, it doesn't matter. No matter when they entered into it, they didn't plan to. When you said exercise science wasn't maybe quite what you thought, it reminds me of that old joke of the person who took women's studies, and they get there and they're like, this class is not at all what I thought it was going to be.
Sure, yeah.
But no, so you obviously, originally you pivoted your degree because you wanted to keep some of the credits that you had already worked for and earned. At what point, it sounds like it might have been after you and your girlfriend were going to move back to Ohio, at what point did you start really seriously saying, you know what, I think I might like this environmental health thing? And you had just said you didn't know you were passionate about water quality. So that does seem to indicate, like so many others in the field, you almost backed into it.
Yeah, very much so. I think I knew someone at the health department that recommended applying for the generalist position. I think there was also a food position open. I came and talked about it during the interview process. They basically were like, these are kind of your two avenues in environmental health that we have open right now. Um, and the generalist sounded more interesting. I'm a very um being cyclic with tasks is helpful to keep me engaged. I felt kind of locking myself into one program could potentially be something I was less interested in. So I ended up going the generalist route, and yeah, it's worked out really well. It's obviously very different than food, but same qualifications. So if I wanted to do food, I could. Um, so yeah, it just kind of like checked all the boxes for me.
So you generalist there, I think you probably do. I think you had mentioned everything pretty much, but food and septic. Kind of everything else falls into the generalist portfolio.
Correct. Yeah, food, septic, lead are kind of the three, at least at our county. Every county is a little bit different. So some smaller counties, the joke is they are true generalists because they would also do, O&M, septic, food, that kind of stuff. In addition to what we do here at our generalist position. Um, so yeah, and you actually caught us kind of at a weird time. We redistricted, so we have one person who's doing like 80% solid waste. We're a big county when it comes to solid waste, like landfills, C&DD landfills, just like general debris landfills, that kind of stuff. Um, we also have a Stericycle in our county, so that falls into the solid waste and kind of has a bunch of interesting regulations and kind of breakdowns of how operation looks.
Those are complex programs.
Yes, very, very complex. I am um, basically first backup when it comes to those kind of things. So I try to keep a general pulse, and our solid waste inspector does an awesome job of making sure I'm CC'd on all the emails, just just in case and off chance something goofy were to happen. Um,
And you get
but
tagged in.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
So
Yeah, which should.
it happens, right?
Oh,
When you least
absolutely.
expect it. I'm sorry, when did you say you moved to Toledo? So how long have you been there with the department?
Yeah, so I think we moved in sometime in 2022, and I had a couple medical things I was taking care of, and then I started August 1st of 2022. So I've been in the same position just over, well, year and change or 3 years and change.
So you were exercise science. You said you were coaching at the time. What's your sport? So obviously there's a
Yeah.
story there.
Yes. Yeah. So, I swam competitively for 8 years. I coached for 4 years. And then now part of my position is pool inspections. So I've kind of fortunately been able to see the kind of the full circle of, swimming operations, if you will. Um, but yeah, no, it's something that I was passionate about just like growing up as a kid, but also I think it's important, just like, swim literacy, I think is very important. And then obviously like pool operation literacy is something I've grown to become passionate about at my current position.
That's awesome. So what did you find? So you swam competitively, and then you go to coaching. How big of a difference is that? Like when you went into it, were you like, I got this. I just swam for all these years. But did you find it to be more of a interesting transition than you thought? And what are the challenges between going to the other side of the dark side, so to speak?
Yes, the dark side is a very very good way to put it. It was interesting. Obviously, there's the kind of political side, parents and different expect coaching. As a coach, you have expectations for certain people, and then parents have certain expectations, and sometimes those don't align always, and that can potentially cause problems. But for the most part, I think it was like 40 kids I coached. Basically like 8 to 18. So like the full
Oh,
range of
wow. You can't even
Yeah,
talk to them the same way. That's a big gap.
correct. Yeah, so morning sessions were basically like here's how to swim, and then like afternoon sessions were like, okay, here's refinement of how to swim. So very different mind like perspectives, which I found kind of refreshing.
So who's
Um,
crazier, the younger kids' parents or the older kids' parents?
ooh, that's a tough one.
Because parents are getting progressively crazier about these things, aren't they?
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah, the younger ones, I feel like they have like as long as they're having fun, that's kind of the expectation. But with the older ones, obviously going from high school to college is a thing. So I think at one point I was like showing my swimmers how to um, basically make yourself as marketable as possible to whatever college you're interested in. And there's different like sports questionnaires on their website. Basically, like learn how to navigate the website efficiently and communicate as effectively as possible to these organizations. Um, so again, doing that, and then also like, here's how to float, here's like how to kick, and here's the rhythm of like adding arms to your kicks for like basic swim propulsion it was just interesting like how like starkly different like that same like core mechanism could be.
It's interesting, but like for any if any parents that you've coached are watching, we weren't talking about you. The
No,
crazy is the
no,
other person,
no, that was
that other
definitely someone
parent.
else.
So you don't think of Ohio as a big pool state, but you all actually have a pretty decent inventory of pools, and that's one of your programs.
Correct. I want to say we have like 250, 270 pools within just Lucas County. That includes both indoors and outdoors, and it's
Seasonal,
split.
non-seasonal.
Correct, correct. The seasonal ones obviously come with their own challenges, because just the timeline is a little bit shorter, and yeah, it's shorter and more compact. Um, but yeah, we also obviously staff turnover is kind of an issue everywhere. But just kind of recommunicating like our expectations slash code expectations to facilities that have high turnover is really one of the biggest issues, I
So
would
very
say.
much like food, right? I guess, right? Is the staff
Correct.
turnover.
Correct. Yeah, that's a we don't see that as much in body art, at least I haven't professionally. And then we don't see that a ton in like schools, and campgrounds are usually pretty
Pretty stable.
solidified, pretty stable
Yeah.
for the most
So
part. Yeah.
what are the things? Because actually, someone was asking me this a few months ago, I think it was, and they're like, "Is there what are the hot buttons in pools? Do you have because you mentioned that turnover obviously affects it from a training and continuity perspective. What are the
Absolutely.
things what are the parts of that regulatory process and health and safety process that suffer as a result of turnover? I think obviously most
Hmm.
people can like top of mind probably guess at it for food because they experience it on a day-to-day basis. But
Sure,
what
yeah.
is it? What is it where you think it starts to come apart a bit because of that in the pool program?
Ah, I see. So uh, it depends on what type of system they have. A lot of pools are trying to get away with like less testing. And to do that, you need different equipment. So, just like a standard pool that you would probably see as like an above ground pool at a residential home would be like an erosion feeder of some kind, a sand filter of some kind, and then, just like whatever motor slash pump is fit for that pool size. Um, you can then do the fancier version, which basically employ a piece of equipment that would monitor that water chemistry and then dispense acid and chlorine appropriately to keep those levels in balance. Um, in a commercial setting, that equipment that does the monitoring, um, has a 12-hour testing period instead of a 4-hour testing period with just your like standard erosion feeder. However, the thing that we always run into with the automatic chemical controllers or the self-regulating equipment is a lot of people will get them thinking they are these like self-sufficient, perfect systems that don't need to be checked. They are equipment like everything else. So just following manufacturer recommendations for routine maintenance, whether that's cleaning the probes, replacing the probes, recalibrating pH, but not ORP. ORP is a fixed value. That's where our order of operations for fixing those kind of things is clean the probes, replace the probes, and then have the automatic chemical controller assessed. And those are kind of also in increased price, I guess. So obviously you don't want prices of things to influence your inspection report. If equipment is broken, it's broken, it should be replaced. But you should kind of give the cheat sheet to the operators for corrective maintenance just in the self-regulation period.
So they can do the highest urgency ones first, right? Not spend the money on the worst one. So you're a swimmer. You're the right guy to ask this question too. Like, and I probably even say it wrong. So your normal old harsh chlorine treated pool versus I think it's like a saline or a salt based, sodium based. Which is better? Or which did you prefer, and which one's harder to maintain and regulate?
I see. So good question. So from a swimmer's perspective, I didn't feel strongly towards certain salt pools. It was a little bit softer on your skin, not as harsh. There are also kind of ulterior or alternate ways to kind of help with some of the combined chlorine secondary disinfection systems. I think UV is the most popular that I see. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the best, but that can help with some of the combined chlorine. Contrary to the name, secondary disinfection isn't always secondary. So for example, UV can get killed, or UV can reduce efficiency or effectiveness of chlorine. So it should be UV, then chlorine, then chlorination, after filtration, instead of chlorination then UV, because if you think of it like an outdoor pool, there are certain chemicals like stabilizers that keep that chlorine from burning off from the sun. And that UV bulb is basically just like a concentrated version of that. So order of operations is imperative sometimes. I think there's only been one pool that I think had it a little bit backwards, and they were kind of fighting their own system, which they did get figured out. I think that was before me, but you can see some of the skeletal system per se of that incorrect order of operations. So as a swimmer, didn't really have a strong preference. Some people swore by bromine, or as a swimmer, bromine was the most comfortable for them. Some people preferred like the salt pools, or I mean, salt is chlorine, but it splits Na into Cl and it gets put through an ionizer. So you it is still a chlorine pool, but obviously you have like residual salt.
Yeah, which makes it really feel like, and this is just a petty whine, those pools make you feel like you've almost got soap on your skin, or you just can't, right? You feel weird.
It's really slippery.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like a water softener on a home. If you or you go to a hotel that has one, like you don't feel like you can get the soap off your body.
Yes. I'm not a huge fan of that feeling, but again, it's just a personal preference. I'm okay with this standard sodium hypochlorite or calcium hypochlorite. That's perfectly fine with me. But again, everyone's welcome to have their own opinions.
We're not going to fixate on pools. I promise. The last question on it, but it's funny. We had a food person on a few episodes ago, and a funny topic came up. Would the average person's home kitchen pass with the health department? If we asked the same question about a pool, I mean, obviously some people maintain it and monitor it better than others, but
Sure.
do you think the average one would actually cut the mustard? And it's a broad category, but because you don't regulate it, right?
Correct. I know it's my understanding that some counties have some influence and or regulation on residential pools. I don't know what that looks like. We are not one of those counties. Um, I don't know. It's hard. My girlfriend's parents have a pool, and I have to like I catch myself making sure to be like as hands off as possible.
Yeah, that's
But
an
like
awkward
but like
situation with the in-laws, like the future in-laws potentially. I don't know. Like
correct.
you
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I'm
no, I
say
got
nothing. Like look
you.
at him like do whatever you want, dude.
Yeah, I'm like obviously I'm not your parents, but code regulation is this. I encourage this. Really the concern as long as there's as long as there's an appropriate amount of chlorine in the pool, I that's fine. That from a residential perspective, I'm like that's really the biggest risk.
You ever driving over their house and your girlfriend's like, "Don't talk about their pool."
No, but she has caught me a couple times. They're also on a well system where I'm like, oh, I could send them a bunch of resources and this and that, and they're relatively open to that. I'm not necessarily encroaching, but again, just it's funny that I'm like I just had a webinar with Private Well, Illinois University about Ottawa County has this overseeing body that you can reach out to for like water quality stuff. It's just, I don't know, it's just funny the overlap with that kind of thing.
How big's your water volume or water quality program volume there in Toledo?
Um, ooh, water quality, like including like septic,
Wells.
pools.
Yeah, because septic you don't do as much of as in your role, but I think you do more with wells, right?
Yes, there is one person who's dedicated to wells. I think it's particularly like new installs and lot splits and that kind of stuff. Um, we do bathing beaches. I think there's like three in the county. Those are few and far between. Basically, we take a water sample, and I think it's a 100 ml water sample, drop it off to the water lab, and then they test it for both coliforms, total coliforms, and something else. Um, and then we'll look at those values and make sure that those are within code
Yeah.
compliance.
Or then you issue, I think, since it's under the beach program and EPA, over US, you can issue a beach closure, right? Depending on
Correct.
what
Yeah,
you
there'd
get
be an
back.
advisory for closure, and we would have to do retesting, and there's a certain period of time, like before, or excuse me, a certain period of time after rainfall that can impact those
Yeah.
numbers. So you have to like have kind of ideal weather conditions and all that stuff.
Yeah. Do you have to close them often? The three beaches you've got in your district or jurisdiction?
I don't think we've had a closure. Sorry, we just
No glitch there. No
lights
worries.
went out. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I got dark on you.
Yeah, sorry, that wasn't intentional.
So yeah,
It's on a timer.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, and maybe a
there it
motion
is. I think my
detector.
coworker just stopped
Saved
by.
you.
Yeah.
Your
Yes,
backlight.
correct.
So it's interesting because not a lot of local health departments have a beach program because they don't have what qualify as a beach. It's actually a really fascinating thing to nerd out on, and the EPA requirements for that.
Nerd out is a correct. Yeah, because we have campground inspections that also have like half fishing, half swimming, bathing beaches. That it's a gray rabbit hole that you could absolutely go down.
Yep. Yeah. So in campgrounds. So this brings us to the program where you got one of the grosser pictures, I think, that was available. The only other one that I think is like in that same gross level is the bed bugs under a microscope. That one was really creepy. But yours, I apparently, when we were saying hi before we got started here, I misid'd it. So we'll put it up and we'll set it up and let you tell the story. So I thought because of what looked like from this angle, all the scissors and things in the sink or instruments, this might be some type of, salon or hair barber shop or something. But it's way worse than that, isn't it?
Correct. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite live up to the name of the clean room that we see in a particularly a piercing setting.
Oh, wait a minute, wait a
Um,
minute. This was what they officially called their clean room?
correct. Yes.
Come on.
Um, I know,
Yeah, we'll
I
leave it
know.
up so you could take us of a tour because where do you even start? There's a ton of disturbing things going on here, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a couple things that would yeah send other inspectors into a spiral similar to myself when taking this picture. Um, you'll see some of the reusable clamps in the basin of the sink. There's some green growth at the bottom, there's some darker growth along the sides, and then there's the obviously very notable ferrofluid-esque, venom-esque growth on within the actual faucet of this clean room sink.
Yeah, it looks fuzzy, the black fuzzy there on the faucet.
Yeah, it's kind of fuzzy on the ends, and then it's kind of like a smooth, almost like a fungal growth kind of along the actual
Wow.
uh like head of the sink. And then you'll notice in the back there's a wire brush used for cleaning some of those pieces of equipment. That is
Wait a
generally
minute.
something we
That
discourage.
wire brush that has seen very clearly better days. They're using it to clean tools and things that they would then use in the art of body piercing and tattooing.
Correct. They
Whoa.
would use that on equipment. They would apply slight point of contention. Um, they were using like basically a bleach-based product in a soft scrub cleaner instead of a pre-enzymatic cleaner
Oh
that you're
man.
supposed to provide and apply to these instruments. They would scrub them, which is something we discourage because it can cause pitting. It can basically like hide bacteria and some of the scratches that it would cause um, within those abrasions. And then they put it into a Ritter Midmark M7 autoclave, which is like basically the only autoclave you can't have because it doesn't have a drying cycle.
Of course. How's that not
Yeah.
surprise me with this place?
Yeah, so it didn't have a drying cycle, which means it wasn't qualified to sterilize hollow instruments, which is all of piercing is hollow instruments. Um, so yeah, this was kind of just like the iceberg of the series of chronic noncompliance.
So you are also
Um,
this you were part of you's not surprised because of the history here.
correct. Yeah, it had been kind of a problem child much like well before me. I just
So
yeah,
so you walk in, obviously you thought it was noteworthy to take a picture. Clearly it was.
yeah.
What did you do? Like, is there an imminent, it would appear to a non fully accredited person on that for this type of thing that there could be imminent health hazard there, right? Like especially not even the right autoclave.
Absolutely. That our process for kind of escalation is something that has not like historically been necessary. So it was kind of something we had to kind of carve out as we went. But effectively, we treated it as a pool. So we went through the summons process and basically said, please do not operate until XYZ is corrected. Um, there was a couple other they like records were lacking.
Yeah, just a disaster.
Yeah, just a disaster.
Did they seem troubled? Like, were they surprised? They're like, did they not think it was a big deal? Like, I'm always curious when something's this out of line. What's the
Yeah.
operator think?
Yeah, the operator seemed relatively unbothered. I was obviously a little bit frazzled by some of my findings. Communicated them as quick as efficiently as possible. Um, I I I think communication was something that posed a problem because it took like several re-inspections to kind of make sure everything from that summons process was corrected before allowing them to reopen. I think I went back like a month later and the growth was no longer there on the actual faucet. I think there was still some residual growth in the sink, and it looked like they basically scraped off the growth and then did nothing further.
They just
Um,
mowed the mold.
they just mowed the mold, and there was like still some residuals. They didn't sanitize anything, and they just kind of assumed it would meet uh, like compliance.
There are people walking around the greater Toledo area that have their body poked with things from this place. Like that's actually
Absolutely.
alarming when you think about it.
It's extremely alarming. I've had a couple of nurses say like, "Oh, if that is something that is aerosolized and inhaled, that can cause potential like lung infections." And
Jeez.
again, we don't know what it is, so yeah, it was just alarming from every perspective. I think imminent health hazard was something we had entertained, but weren't sure if we had actual like legal rights to like close them from that perspective as far as
Yeah.
just the piercing
It's a
operational side.
tricky claim and bar to meet, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah, it's a little vague, but yeah, it's an interesting I don't want to say thought experiment, but something adjacent to that.
So for anybody who's in the body art community, or not, no, I'm sorry, not in the environmental health community, but just a connoisseur of body piercing and tattoos, I think the obvious question that's coming to their mind is, okay, what's a clean room supposed to be like? And then the real question is, how can I, as a consumer, is there anything I can look for when I walk in to get services at a place like this? Like, how can I protect myself if stuff like that actually was happening in an open business?
Absolutely. It really just depends on that particular local health department. Some facilities, so for example, from my knowledge, just talking to coworkers, we didn't switch to an online documentation system until 2017. Um, with that are all of our inspection reports for body art, food, campgrounds, and pools were available on our website.
Excellent.
So obviously that's not all the programs, but it's kind of the big stuff that has kind of the largest
It's a popular
pop.
site, isn't it? People love looking at
Correct.
that.
Yeah, no, people all the time will tell me, "Oh, you guys haven't updated your website in X amount of years. What's going on with that?" And I'm like, That's outside of my department. I appreciate your inquisition to that, and obviously, it's nice to know people care and are
Yeah. They want to
paying
read your
attention.
work. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So that picture, did that go on the website or did you take it for sort of your own collection, so to speak? Because it is a
Yeah.
nuts picture. It was enough to win second place in category at the National NEHA photo competition. So the public didn't see the picture, but I assume in your comments and observations, you actually wrote up and described what you saw, right? So it would have been
Correct.
jarring.
Yes, I described it as clearly as possible. I think because it hasn't been tested, I think there's a discouragement to actually use like mold or this or any like strong verbiage. So I think we've just used the blanket term growth. Like there
Growth.
was there was there was dark or black growth observed here and here and this observed there. And I honestly haven't looked back at that inspection report. I probably again wrote it a little bit frantically. I wanted to document it as well as possible. But yeah, no, that's definitely something I'll have to look back upon. It yeah, there's like I said, just some of the general upkeep of that shop was something that was of a concern, and then records were concerned. So I think that's one of my few 2 or 3 page inspection reports for body art. Um, Kind of circling back to your question about where can people get these, if your local like body art establishment doesn't have them, you can typically fill out a Freedom of Information Act to your local health department and get
That's
whatever
right.
recent inspection reports you feel you need from them. I don't know what that looks like, whether they would send you an email, scan a copy, mail a copy out. I don't know what that looks like.
You are
But that is
100%
all public.
correct.
That is all
It
public
is.
record. That's
And
absolutely something people should have access to.
there's somebody in your department who cringes when they hear you say that, because it's their job to process all the public information requests.
Correct.
But
Correct. Yeah.
also at lucascountyhealth.com, under the environmental health sections, I believe, where you post your inspections and know a little bit about what's going on there. They're going to be, I think, updated again soon. I think there was an issue with a non-HS GovTech software system
Yes,
that did cause it to get
actually
behind.
that's actually something I had partial nefarious intentions of kind of picking your brain about, because um we went from health-based legacy to Acela, or non-GovTech,
Yeah.
site for, all intents and purposes, and then are going back, or at least exploring the option of
Yeah.
the health-based cloud
Yeah,
option.
to get all that data back and get it online. There's some ways to do it, and be happy to help you. It's because it's interesting. Once you put it out, people like it, and they don't they notice if it gets a little bit out of date. But
Sure.
it's very valuable, and it saves whoever the poor person's job is of processing FOIA requests and making Xerox copies or PDFs for email from having to do it.
Correct. 100%. No. Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's some ways, and I think there's some folks from HS that are talking to folks at your department, and yeah, I'd be happy to even just sidebar with you and talk about
Yeah.
how to
I'm very
untangle
interested
the
in
data to get it back online and make it more manageable for you guys.
that. Yes.
So I have to ask, so you took that one because you were obviously stunned. It's like you have to take a picture to remember just how crazy it was.
Correct.
Do you do that often? Do you get pictures on inspections very often?
Not necessarily. So we do like livestock variance inspections or chicken permit inspections. So we'll do like the allowance of those certain types of animals within the county, and those usually would take pictures for, just to say like, this is kind of what the property was. It was in a state of control when I left. What it looks like after that is, I don't want to say irrelevant, but it's not what I observed at time of inspection. Um, but yeah, obviously, uh, any of the fun, shocking, jarring stuff absolutely gets documented. Both from a GDP, a good documentations practice perspective, in addition to yeah, it's just, I feel like people would not believe me if that it's something that I just were to describe in the abstract.
Yeah, no, because no one would be like, it's supposed to be the clean room, for goodness sake.
Correct. Yeah.
And so what is, again, just the definition of a clean room, like from a code perspective, the importance of it, and what's it supposed to be like? Because that ain't it.
Absolutely. So clean rooms are basically reprocessing of reusable equipment for piercing. Sometimes, um, like artists will buy needles for piercings that are sterilized, and those can get, if those expire for whatever reason, if they buy a giant bag of them in bulk, um, and they expire, those can be reprocessed for clients, whether that's in bulk, like we see with a lot of the larger autoclaves, or on a per client basis, we see with some of the statums. I think those are like a 3 to 7 minute like temperature hold time. They're really quick, and they're kind of made to be per per client. But yeah, they're oftentimes, there's a lot of stainless steel. They're smooth and unporous, easily cleanable surfaces all the way throughout. Um, Again, we'll see the enzymatic pre-cleaners. We'll see basins to store those enzymatic pre-cleaners, in addition to tools. It's usually hospital-esque. It's kind of, again, the clean room is obviously where gross things go to get reprocessed, but there should be some type of flow of dirty to clean, to make sure everything is being reduced of cross-contamination.
Makes sense. I love that. Hospital-esque. That's actually a really good way to put a turn of phrase on it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So while we're looking at pictures, and I know up front, like you are pretty much all the programs, but food. But we try to do a viewer piece of feedback, question, comment. And a lot of them come from the environmental health community, but every so often we'll get some from somebody who's on the outside, but they actually want the opinions of the people on the inside. And so this one was interesting, and we'll throw it up here, and you should be able to see it as well. And so it's from Reddit. A lot of people watch on Reddit. The handles are funny on Reddit. Needle worker number 8531.
That's great.
Needle worker sent that picture, and then over on the right here, the text, he goes, "So I'm new to being a line cook. I've only done it for a couple of months so far. However, I'm a certified baker, and I'm currently getting associates in culinary." This guy wants to be in food service, be a chef.
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah. I'm also a ServSafe certified, so good for him. Where I work isn't exactly upscale, as I'm in a southern college town. I hear you. Southern college towns can be a lot of fun. However, it's upscale enough to have a wine menu. That's funny. It depends on what kind of wine, right? Working the line, I expect things to be looked over from time to time. A big football game will get you busy, and things do slip by. However, I'm constantly complaining to my two sous chefs. It can't be that much of a dive. They've got sous chefs. My executive, right? Yeah, sounds bougier. My executive chef about cross contamination. Other cooks, well, this is bad. Like, this is objectively bad. Other cooks do not change their gloves after handling raw chicken. Come on, they put their hands in the handles of the basket and drop the food. Whoever pulls the basket does not change gloves before plating. I think he meant to say plating there. The food.
Gotcha, yes,
they do not wipe down hardly ever until close. So now to his picture. This picture was taken around 8 p.m. on a Wednesday night. I was working saute, and we had 2 guys on fry that night. My question is, are my standards just too high working as a line cook, or does my company just not give a, starts with F, ends with letters we won't finish on the air, about the health and safety of their guests? And so there's the picture. It does look pretty messy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely in a state of disarray, even for it being 8 p.m. Yeah, there's some accumulation of different items on the floor. I can't quite tell what those are.
It looks like some trash on the floor as well.
Yeah, it looks like trash and general stuff that should not be there.
And what's that stuff behind the fryers? Like, that doesn't look like it just blew up there in the last couple hours, does it?
No, that accumulation of grease is probably a long driven effort to have that much accumulated. Let's see what else. I'm not sure. Is that a liquid or some other food items at the far end?
It does. It looks like an uncovered, unlabeled food container of some sort at the other end.
I see.
Good catch.
Yeah.
I didn't see that at first. But the little metal or whatever thing is behind it. Oh, I see something else. Okay, so if we look at that metal behind it, there's a couple of good ones here. First of all, there's something gross accumulated on it, but look up to the right from that food container. There's a violation lurking there.
Oh yeah, the cup. Open cup.
Yeah, no personal beverages. I think it's in pretty much everybody's food code.
Yes, yeah.
So needle worker, that better not have been your cup.
Yeah.
So I think we've counted at least 4 or 5 really good violations here.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Imagine I just from talking with other food inspectors, I know the grease trap is kind of a perpetual problem.
Yeah, and the hoods get gross and
the hoods get super gross. Floor drain wasn't backed up, slight plus. I saw the floor drain on the side.
No sewage on the floor.
No sewage on the floor. I have a recent case I'm working with on that right now.
Really? How much sewage we talking, and what kind of business?
It is a mobile home park, and it has I would say a significant amount of sewage backed up.
Is it coming up into the units?
Yes. Now, well, it wasn't connected at first. Like, both gray water and black water were not connected to sanitary sewer. So that was a whole thing. Obviously, the expectation for backed up sewage should be 0, but Yeah, that's a current one. And so that's kind of where my mind went, is just making sure those drains were not backed up.
It's funny. This was years ago, city of in Houston, and they came in to inspect, and went to the kitchen, and everybody was waiting around in about 4 inches of raw sewage that had come up through the drains,
Oh
and
my
the
gosh.
inspector was like, and the guy's like, "What?" He's like, "Don't tell me you didn't know it was a problem. You've got muck boots on." But they were literally just running the restaurant, just like waiting around in it.
That's
It's
crazy. Oh my
horrible.
gosh.
So, needleworker, I don't think your standards are too high, unless that was
Not at
your
all.
cup. But generally speaking, no, I think they just don't care. There's a lot of work to be done there. We love it when we get
Yeah.
the non-EH folks that ask questions. And we love
Yeah,
pictures, right?
absolutely.
Pictures are
Oh,
worth so
absolutely.
much better than a description,
100%.
as yours proves there. So, on the story front, the sewage one, wow. Any other, and it doesn't have to be necessarily like a story, but are there any other, whether it's an inspection or case that you've had to be a participant in since you've been at the department, that is just crazy, or that has been very difficult and challenging for various reasons?
Yeah, there was another one that kind of comes to mind. I'll refrain from name dropping, but I'll just say it's a chain um that had a pool where the pump room had extremely poor ventilation, which actually kind of reminds me of another facility that I can get into briefly. Um, Effectively, the ventilation was so poor that the aerosolized chlorine and the aerosolized acid were mixing and forming these
What?
like super thick like salts on everything. The
Whoa.
operator had basically stated like the motor was covered, like caked in this solidified stalactite stalagmite structure, um preserved forever in this stuff. And it had eaten away at the main power line from the electrical box to the pump, which obviously being on the ground, that was a critical violation. We closed for that. um he basically stated that he was getting a new hot or a new heater every 6 months because there's just like aerosolized crystals were just destroying their heaters every 6 months. He's like, oh yeah, I would just buy a new one and move on. And um, I got some good pictures of that one as well, where just like the flow meter is just again completely calcified. Um,
Would have been
so
cheaper to
that
fix the problem, right? Because a new heater every six
correct.
months expensive.
Yeah, putting in a fan or some type of something just to move that air along, so you don't have these uh like dense deposits of chlorine and acid. But I
That's
had a
wild.
that kind of reminds me, I had another facility where I kind of going to what we said about just like pool literacy. And I don't not in this case wasn't necessarily staff turnover, but it's just someone I hadn't interacted with before. Basically we went back and forth. I put the recommendation of putting some type of ventilation within this extremely small pump room, um, that I think code said not it can't recirculate with the regular HVAC system, in case there was any type of chemical leak, chlorine gases produced, whatever. You don't want to push that through the rest of the building. So I recommended basically like an exterior fan. I think it had one or two exterior facing walls that they could have put in. I got a couple of facilities that use like uh, humidity humidity sensor fans that like the vents kick open when it hits a certain humidity and pumps all of that moisture out. Not a huge fan of them, but in theory they are good. um or you could just, like I said, have a fan that runs continuously or some type of chimney. I've seen all kinds of variations just to make sure if you have, this gigantic tank of sodium hypochlorite, um like chlorine solution, and you're also storing acids in there, or you have your acid storage container run by a Stenner pump to push it into the pool, and those were both to leak, you would have a gigantic chlorine gas production.
Wow.
And
like the chlorine gas that's like used to kill people.
correct,
Wow.
correct. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Chlorine gas, mustard gas, all kind of the same stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, and that would be a huge problem. And I basically like spelled it out. I'm like, I don't like how there's not ventilation in here. It's a small space, this and that. We kind of went back and forth. And he basically
You're not
tried to
licensed to make chemical weapons.
correct, correct. This is a war crime.
Yes.
um, but yeah, he told me there should not be ventilation because you want it to remain contained.
Oh, come on.
You want to contain this chlorine gas that you've now produced, and it's yeah, sometimes it's just difficult.
That sounds like a guy that didn't want to pay for a fan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it sounds the guy who's adamantly against big fan or something. I don't know.
So, do you enjoy, or is it draining, that part of the job where you're dealing with really potentially really serious situations, and
Sure.
you're the face of the department, and you got to try to communicate and somehow connect with this person. Does that make you feel really tired at the end of the day, or are these kinds of things the outlier?
It's like 50-50. Obviously being able to like resonate, and being able to pivot and find a way to communicate something to an operator, or an artist that is important, both like communicating and having it resonate that it is important is extremely rewarding. But obviously when it doesn't quite click and you've kind of tried to circle back and re-explain or change the perspective of how you explain something, it can be a little bit frustrating. In those cases, sometimes you know, how you document can be weaponized and used against you. It's like, oh, you told me this, and that kind of thing. And that obviously can be a little bit discouraging, but I'd say in grand scheme, it's probably like not necessarily 50-50, probably like 70-30, 70%
Yeah.
rewarding, 30% frustrating, which I don't know if that's average for, every job, but
In environmental health, it's about par for the course.
yeah.
When you first got to the department, did anybody try to be like, okay, we got the new guy here now, we're going to tell him, the last guy said the chlorine gas was no real problem. Like, have you ever had somebody try to tell you, last person told me?
100%. Well, that's never been a problem in the past. Dan never said anything. Dan was the guy before me, and I it's funny, I've been working here 3 years, and I'll still get, well, you're not Dan. I'm like, yeah, no kidding. I've written your last 3 to 6 inspection reports, depending on frequency of program.
Yeah, there's a
just
new
kinda
sheriff in town.
Yeah, it's no longer Dan. I hate to break it to you.
Are you planning on sticking with EH? I mean, it seems like you're having fun. You also seem to have just a really kind of don't let anything get you too far off center personality, which has to be critical in the job.
Yes, yeah, I'm enjoying EH right now. It's funny, like I said, we being envious of Toledo area sanitary district from their recent renovations and kind of overlap with public health is it's always super interesting to see other programs. But yeah, no, I try not to let it bother me too much. At the end of the day, as long as the big stuff stuck, the little stuff can always kind of get worked out in subsequent inspections. You really kind of got to pick your battles sometimes.
Just like parenting. Yeah, it's so true. Like if you're the one that just goes nuts over everything, then you kind of lose the shock value or the leverage when you really need them to pay attention to it, don't you?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I think like you said, it's important to just, okay, well, why is this important? Communicate that as effectively as possible. Doesn't stick, try again. At the very least, try spelling out code. I try to pull it up on my phone as much as I can. Just like if it doesn't stick, of like, it should be important because of public health. then I kind of fall back on code, which I don't it's not preferable, but it is
Sometimes
an
you're
option.
left with no choice,
Correct.
unfortunately. So, and hey, they're really lucky to have you after Dan, because there are some people who will more lead with code and be like, I don't have time for your crap, and I'm just gonna hit
Sure,
you.
yeah,
So like
sure.
actually they're pretty fortunate to have you. So Zach,
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
I know we're getting close to keeping you almost longer than we promised.
No, you're fine.
But I I hope you guys have a great end of the year, and we hopefully look forward to seeing you on, having you again. So I actually would ask you a favor. If you you take additional pictures as you're out there, every day, please keep us in mind. And then anytime you get something, you don't have to come back for an hour, come back and do a segment and talk about a couple of your pictures.
Yeah.
So please feel free to send it in to us. And
no, I greatly appreciate that. I've got a couple coworkers who also have done housing and experienced some of the.
That's a crazy program, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
they see stuff.
We temporarily have housing, which is a whole thing, but yeah, no, I will absolutely pass that information along. I appreciate the invitation.
That'd be great. And then for those of you in the audience, a lot of inspectors around the country out there, you can send them to us as well. Beyond at hscloudsuite.com, beyond at hscloudsuite.com. We read every email, every message, and every picture will get a response. And just note when you send it, if you'd like to come on to tell the story behind it. You don't have to. We can use it without you if you want us to. But also, I think it's always better when the person that took it can actually explain it, as we just learned today with Zach in what was a real doozy of a picture. So, Zach, as you're going to holiday gatherings with your girlfriend's parents over the course of the rest of this season, remember the pool and the well are just verboten topics, right?
Absolutely. Those are summer programs.
That's great. Summer programs, not for discussion at Thanksgiving or the other holidays in the season. So,
absolutely.
That's awesome. We'll have you back. Please send us other pictures. We would love to have you back and follow along with you. And let us know anytime you see something. It'd be great. So we only have a couple more episodes left, folks, in the season here before we'll take a break for the holidays and then have another full season of episodes coming up next year in 2026. I can't believe that's where we are now. For all of us here at the Beyond Data Management Podcast, powered every single Tuesday by HS GovTech, I'm your host, Cameron Garrison. We'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Talk to you next week.